Enrolling in Iris really changed my life because I guess from day one, I just loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And then while I was at Iris, I was an apprentice, and I was very poor, and my family kind of came into hard financial times. So I needed to do anything I could to make money. So I started pounding the harbor, looking for jobs on boats while going to school. Wow. And that's sort of what got me into making money.
Can you tell our listeners what Iris is actually, like what that school means to the sailing community, and what sort of stuff do they teach there, and where is it too?
So Iris is in Newport, Rhode Island. It's the IYRS, stands for International Yacht Restoration School. It was founded in the mid-90s, and when I started there, it was very, very new. It's only a few years in. There were 9 other classmates that were part of my class, and the board of the school had great connections and helped the school be quite flush with cash. And they were sort of learning from us as much as we were learning how to build boats. They wanted to see how to shape the program, and I really got to take advantage of that when I was there. Iris, when I started, was just specific towards learning how to restore yachts, but because they were exploring their curriculum, I wanted to study naval architecture, and they said no problem. They hired a naval architect to work with me and set up an internship for me at MIT that year, which I thought was kind of hysterical, being a wooden boat builder and getting to go do stuff at MIT. Iris has since expanded dramatically. It's a systems composite program where they're teaching. They expanded the campus. The restoration program still exists, but today you can go learn how to work with carbon fiber. You can learn about marine systems. It's really cool to check out their students building surfboards for projects. It's a really cool trade school, it sounds like, and super specialized. So would you be studying like old architecture of boats, I guess, like all the classical kind of, aspects to them? Like what sort of stuff were you able to kind of, like, it sounds like you were able to direct what you wanted to study almost. What was interesting was there's a core curriculum where they had identified a certain type of boat called a Beetle Cat. And Beetle Cat has a lot of elements that apply to big boats. So it was a great platform to teach you the principles of building on. And then there were periods of independent study in addition to the primary program, and that's where I spun off and studied design and naval architecture. Other students got into furniture building, canoe building. Just it was really an opportunity for if you wanted to be curious. This was a place to come that was going to foster that curiosity and help you find the resources to explore and grow with it.
That's so cool.
It's a really cool place, and it certainly doesn't hurt that the campus is right on the waterfront in downtown Newport. So I remember being 19 years old and starting my day, throwing on headphones, riding my bike to Iris, getting a cup of coffee, and I'd spend the whole day looking out at the water and learning how to build boats.
Wow.
That was cool. I think what was really neat too about Iris was, and I learned this later in life, was that the skill set was at such a high level that it also made it very easy for me to move into different industries because of the higher level. So my knowledge of cabinetry and also my understanding of engineering construction has helped me later in life, where now I'm predominantly in the luxury home industry.
Yeah.
Like my design business, we're the architect of 7 new ground up houses. I design highly engineered mechanical furniture that kind of works like a transformer.
But that's like, to me, it seems like the real skill set you learn is not so much even how to do those things. It's more about like paying attention to detail and how to figure out how to
do those things, right? Like if you're, I imagine like you had worked on numerous boats and yachts as well, and you have to almost like be able to think on the fly and create a solution right then and there, and you can't just go and buy something. You have to almost make it while you're out in the middle of the ocean almost, which sounds just crazy. You know? And you can work under high stress, I guess.
It unfortunately, I did have a few moments where that really, what you described really did apply. And I did recognize early on that my understanding of construction and how boats work made me a better sailor and a greater asset to the boats that I worked on. The ship in the book that I'm writing about was a 180-foot long wooden ship. And yeah, there were moments where we had some horrific failures out at sea, and it was my knowledge, my understanding of the construction of the ship that helped me be an important asset to the ship in those situations.
So let's talk about the Rose. You know, so this is basically, you know, It sounded like a really interesting ship. You know, it was kind of used originally for just kind of like like a museum tour almost, not so much even for seafaring. And then it was converted into something for seafaring, and then used as a movie prop almost for. So, could you give a little bit of backstory on the Rose and what an American tall ship is?
Yeah. So, you know, the term tall ship is a broadly applied term that's not so regulated, but I'd say that if I were to describe a tall ship, you'd probably describe a large sailing vessel that is traditionally rigged, so that if you saw it, you'd say, oh, that's an old boat. You know very, very well that's the kind of boats. South Street Seaport has a few famous tall ships, and there
the Cuddy Sark.
There are.
Would that be one? Mm-hmm. The one that went up in flames in England.
And I think that so the term tall ship applies loosely, but you could say these large vessels that were square riggers that sailed around the world, clipper ships, old Ironsides, the U.S. Constitution, or like the Mayflower. The Rose was built to be a dockside attraction for the centennial celebration of the bicentennial celebration of America in 1976. And she did her job, but she was built to be a dockside attraction and kind of like got left to rot afterwards. There was a man named Richard Bailey who loved the ship and eventually became the captain of the ship. He was the captain of the ship when I sailed on her. And he was a man with a master plan and understood that the boat needed to have some sort of business potential if it was going to survive. And a man named Kay Williams believed in Richard Bailey's vision, and the HMS Rose Foundation was formed, which converted the ship into a sail training platform. And the Rose very successfully worked as a sail training platform for a couple of decades until being acquired by 20th Century Fox to make the movie Master and Commander, starring Russell Crowe.
Wow, that's cool.
It's
so in the bit that you had sent me in your book, like your first impressions of the boat and the people on it. So like you had been sailing around in Europe before this. What were you doing before first you met the Rose? Because I'm kind of curious like that. And what sort of debauchery were you up to then?
I had just completed my program at Iris, and I had been hired to restore a 12-meter yacht, which is a class of boat. It's not 12 meters long. The one I was on was about 70 feet. And we went to England to go race an event called the America's Cup Jubilee, which was kind of like the Woodstock of sailing. It was the celebration of the America's Cup, and anybody everybody who was anybody from around the world went. I mean, it was out of control. And so we all went to England and had just an incredible couple weeks of racing and sailing with the most famous sailors in the world, celebrities, royalty. It was pretty out of control. Wow. And following that, we shipped the yacht down to Italy. And that was a really neat experience because we were on this ship called Dockwise, which would sink itself into the water. And then you would float all the boats on. These divers would move stands under the water, under the boats, and it would slowly raise up out of the water. And at some point, all the boats were up out of the water, and it would raise up. And I got to ride the ship from England to Italy, and that's a book in itself with hanging out with all the crew on that ship. When we got to Italy, we started a European tour of racing along European ports. We started in Porto Cervo and then made our way up to Monaco and then down along the French Riviera. And I was 21 years old, living on a 70-foot yacht and just having the time of my life, and coming back to America and knowing that I had no other job opportunities other than the Rose when it presented itself was sort of a humbling experience, humbling moment.
Well, imagine it would be. You're going like kind of jet-setting lifestyle in Europe almost, right? Like you're kind of being paid to race, but you're also, everything's paid for, and I imagine you're blowing a lot of money as well because you're trying to enjoy this lifestyle, and you're 21. So, yeah, there is that too.
I came back to America broke and homeless. And that really was the impetus of it. Was winter was coming on. Most job opportunities were already filled or gone. So this was the one opportunity I had, and
wow.
I took it.
And your initial impressions when you saw the Rose and you met the crew. So like what was your initial impression? Were you looking forward to this, or were you apprehensive? It seemed like from the writing, it was definitely like, oh fuck.
I was terrified. I was absolutely. The Rose was a nonprofit, and what the crew was paid was just abhorrent. They were getting paid $95 a week, and there was a running joke where when you work on a tall ship, you get paid 25 cents an hour and all the salt water you can drink. And so if you can imagine what kind of like it's almost like maybe like a hipster's dream working on the Rose, where you've got all these people who are just wearing the rattiest, dirtiest clothes, and they're weird. They're from different places. There are some normal people, but there's a lot of odd ducks there. And you've got people like me who are kind of still wondering why you did it, and then there's other people who wish that they were alive 200 years ago. I didn't understand there were members of the crew who would buy this soap that smells like tar, like asphalt on the road, because they'd come to love the smell of tar, because all the lines and the rigging and the ship are covered in tar, and one of the jobs is to constantly lubricate all that rigging with tar to protect it from the elements. So and then there's,
I love the smell of asphalt in the morning.
Well, the problem was it became like a real competition. Was it going to be the asphalt or the BO? And I started to wonder if it was the reason why they were using the asphalt soap was because of how bad their BO was. Because you couldn't, with 30 people, there wasn't enough water when we were underway to take regular showers. So
how did you get your water? Now there was some mechanism that filtered the salt water into potable water. Was that?
Well, so you have your water tanks and you fill them up, and you've got your water storage, and then fortunately with today's technology, you can use a machine called a water maker, which has membranes, and it doesn't make water. What it does is it forces the ocean water through the membranes, and those membranes on a micron level filter the water, and at the end you get a product that's drinkable, but tastes pretty terrible. And water filters